Today's video is all about the lowly lobster. I'll be cooking a feast for our Mother's Day tradition. I'll show you a quick and easy way to de-shell the little critters. I'll be sharing the importance of this little ground feeder in Newfoundland culture and sharing the history of lobster and its importance to our economy. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and thanks for joining me on this Mother's Day. By the time you see this, it'll probably be Tuesday or Monday. So I'm filming it on Mother's Day. We're having lobster today, and this video is all things lobster. Mother's Day for us has always been a day when we had a feed of lobster. It's usually what my mother always wanted, and my current wife Janice, that's her request every year. In Newfoundland, I think it makes sense. A lot of families in Newfoundland generally have lobster, if they can, on Mother's Day. And the reason for that is it coincides pretty closely with the opening of the lobster fishery in Newfoundland. So that's usually what's happening there. The lobster industry in Newfoundland started in about 1870, and at that time it was canned lobster that was shipped abroad. People around here generally couldn't understand why anybody would want to eat lobster. They were considered ground feeders. They weren't something that people craved. But there was a demand for lobster because at the time it was a fairly inexpensive, cheap way to feed people that couldn't afford to eat better. Prisoners, for example, were often fed lobster. Folks that couldn't afford other foods were fed lobster. So it's funny how the kind of evolution of lobster happened over the years, with it initially being something that people didn't like, to now it being a fine delicacy. Since 2015, we've grown more in the lobster industry here in Newfoundland than any other time before, probably. And land needs have increased by about 260% since 2015 to 2024. So that's phenomenal. The industry itself, I think last year it was worth $136 million to the Newfoundland economy. So when you have a population of 500,000 people, that kind of money is critical. So obviously it's an important part of our industry, it's an important part of our culture, and that's why we love it. So originally my plan was to show you guys how to cook the lobster from start to finish. So anyway, I went to Sobeys yesterday and I inquired as to how much they were. They were $8.95 a pound uncooked and $1 more a pound cooked. So I asked the guy, I said, is there going to be a significant difference? And he actually told me, he said, it's probably very little difference at all to have them cooked, because by the time they're cooked, a lot of their gross weight is steamed out of them. So if you go to buy lobster at the store, think about that. If you don't want to fool around with boiling them, just get them cooked there, and the price difference is negligible, okay? So that was kind of interesting. If you are cooking them though, very simple, either use salt water that you get from the ocean. If that's not available to you, I usually fill my pot about a quarter full. I prefer to steam the lobster versus boiling them to pieces. And in terms of how much salt, about a palmful. You know what? A quarter to a half a cup. That's really all you need of fine granular salt. First time I ever cooked lobster was in PEI, and I absolutely destroyed them. I had no idea how much salt to use, and in my mind, a box should do it. So I put a full box of salt in these, and needless to say, they were terrible. You couldn't eat them. So another example of Monty learning from mistakes. So anyway, let's get going on how to crack them. When my family eats lobster, they don't have to worry about chopping or cracking or clawing. I usually butcher them for them. And that's because I can do it very quickly, very easily, and it saves the mess when they're eating them. So the first thing that I generally do is I just take the claws, turn them over. If you're wondering how long to cook them, I usually cook them for about 25 minutes. When the, it doesn't show it here, but when the claw comes off, when this type of claw comes off quickly and easily, you know they're done. Take them off the heat, immediately put them in a cold area so they don't continue cooking the shell. So I take everything off. This is a female. I twist this tail off like so. And a trick that I just learned is you take the back fins, push it up like that. All you gotta do is push the tail through from the rear, like so, and pull it out. You got your meat. The other thing that I sometimes do, if you don't like that idea or you prefer something else, is I will crack it with my palm, like so, and then pull it apart like that. And that's just as easy as well. In fact, it might be easier. Now, these, I don't do anything with these. I just put them there. This is this little trick. By the way, the meat in these little fins are delicious. All you do is just kind of squeeze them and suck on the ends here. So I usually get those. Next step, the claws. Seen people in the past take the claws and kind of beat on them. There's no need to do that. I learned this in PEI. All you do is you take your butcher knife, you give it one little chop, and then roll. And you'll feel the knife move down through. Once it gets down about a quarter of the way, just twist your knife, and you're done. So I'll show that again with this claw. Roll, get the knuckles off. If you like, you can cut those in the middle. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. The knuckle meat is amazing as well. You don't have to jam it, you don't have to beat on it, you don't have to smash it with a hammer. All you gotta do is a little notch, roll it like so, about halfway through, a little twist of the wrist like so, and you're done. Very, very, very easy. I usually just pull that bone out and leave that there as well. All right, so I'll walk you through that one more time. Just take your lobster, take off the legs, twist off the tail. I'll use the palm method for this one. So I usually put it between my palm. You don't need strong hands to do this, it'll naturally go. Squeeze it together, pull it apart, reach in, Bob's your uncle. The hardest part is probably these claws, the knuckles. So I just kind of lodge it in there again one more time. So basically what happens is there's 2 lobsters in each one of these trays. We pick these trays up, you can get them at the dollar store. I'll cover them up in saran wrap, put them in the fridge, and when everybody gets here, I just bring those out. And everybody gets one of those trays, and it's clean, and it's tidy, and nobody has to be banging on the table with hammers and stuff. I just find that it's the simplest way. I'm sure there's other ways to do this, but for me personally, this is the simplest and easiest way to do it. So, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate your support. Again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I want to remind you again about the MFS Summer Giveaway. I know I didn't say that right, but I'll put it right here. Check out that video. It's the video before this one, I believe. And leave a comment and increase your chances to get qualified for the MFS giveaway later in the summer, which is going to happen on June 21st. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.